If you're looking to build a professional website for your business, you might be wondering what website builder you or your team should use. So I'm in Australia and I've been building websites for local businesses for the past 6 years, and I mainly used WordPress to do it. So I just wanted to record this quick video to tell you a bit more about WordPress, the pros, the cons, and when I think you should use this solution and when you might actually be better to look for something different. So first, let's have a quick talk about what is WordPress. So WordPress is what we call a content management system, CMS. Just to make it simple, just consider it as a software that you can use to build any kind of website, and that's a free solution. So WordPress is extremely popular. It's been around since 2004, and it's by far the most popular website builder that you can find. Just to give you a few numbers, there is 28 million websites built with WordPress. And if you compare with a few competitors, a few other solutions, you've got Wix, and Wix is something like a 4.5 million website, so much less. And if you check Squarespace, it's going to be something like 2.8 million. I'm going to share my source in the description. I will share a link with you where you can actually check these numbers on a very reliable website, and yeah, you can check by yourself. Now, I think it's really important to understand that while WordPress is extremely powerful, versatile, and will really let you build pretty much everything you want with it, it's actually quite limited by itself. What I mean by that is you need to be aware that when you're going to build your website with WordPress, you will actually need a few other things. So first, you will need a host. You need a hosting company. So there is a lot that you can choose from. And if you want to save a bit of time, in the description of this video, I'm going to share a link of another video where I explain, where I tell you about my favorite hosting company and the one that I would recommend you to go for. Then you will need a theme. So that's something that we use to create a website with WordPress. That's basically what's going to give the look to your website. So you can find some online. You will have a demo of what your website will look like with each specific theme. And when you just have to buy it, or sometimes it's free, it's really depending of where you find it. I would recommend to all time go for a premium solution because the free theme that you're going to find online are usually quite limited. But anyway, that's another discussion. In the description, I'm also going to share a link of another video where I share with you the theme that I personally use to build all the website that I create for my clients. And I've been using this theme for over a year now. And this theme is just perfect. I mean, so much possibilities, already including so many very advanced features, not too advanced then, very fast, very reliable. So I'm going to share everything about this theme in another video, and yeah, it's going to save you a ton of time if you just go for this theme, because it's very unlikely that you go wrong going for this one. And then you will need plugins. So what is a plugin? A plugin is a file which will contain some features for your website. So some plugin will be just around one feature. Some of the plugin will contain a few different features. You might find some free plugin or some premium plugins. And obviously a premium plugin usually will have a more advanced feature than a free plugin. Most of the premium plugin, usually you can try it with a free version. They pretty much all have a free version that you can try with limited feature, or maybe a specific amount of time that you can use it. And yeah, so it's quite easy to use plugin with WordPress. I'm just going to give you a quick example of what can be a plugin. Let's say that you create your new website, you bought a theme, you're happy with the theme, but let's say that you don't like the photo gallery and you have some specific needs for your business, you want to show your photo a specific way. What you're going to do, you're just going to go online, enter WordPress plugin. So you go on Google and you just look for WordPress plugin gallery photo, just as an example, and you will see plenty of different results. You just check the website of the developer and you will have plenty of examples of what you can do with each plugin. And once you find the one that seems to be the one that works the best in your case, you might be able to download it for free, or you have to pay for it, whatever. You upload the file to your website and then you will have all the features available for you to create the gallery that was shown on the example. Even if you have to pay for a plugin, usually, I mean, most of the plugin, they will be around $20-$30. There is not a specific price range for plugin. Obviously, it can be more expensive than that, but I'm just saying that usually it's just like a very small amount of money, and if that's really what you want, it's really, really worth it to buy it. So now let's analyze the pros and the cons of WordPress. So the first thing that you will, I think, like about WordPress, the first thing that you will like about WordPress is that WordPress is a free software. So you don't need to pay to use WordPress. Then the second thing is that WordPress is open source software. This means that any developer around the world can interact with the code of this software. So that's how they can create the different plugins and stuff like that. So you actually, if you have a specific need, it's very likely that someone else already had this need and that a developer been creating a solution to fix this need. So that's why it's pretty much limitless what you can find online. And so that's really important when you create a website and if you're serious with your project to go for what we call an open source solution. Then it means that anyone can interact with the code and create what you will need and never be limited. The last thing that I really like about WordPress is the community. Because it's the most popular website builder, there is a huge community around it, which means that if you have a question, you're wondering how to do something on your website, it is very likely that if you just do a search on Google, you will find the answer. If you have a problem or like a technical issue and you want to know, you would like to fix it by yourself, just going on Google or on specific forum, you will find it's very likely that you find the answer that you're looking for. The second thing is, let's say that at some point you want to hire a developer to help you with the project, to take over the work, or even start the project from scratch, obviously. It's going to be very easy to find a professional website designer that use WordPress and can create an amazing project for you or take over what you already did. And it's actually not going to be the case for most of the other solutions, especially when it's not open source. And WordPress is just recognized as the most popular website builder. I already mentioned that, but especially in the professional community. I mean, everyone that build website and that's make a living out of it, it's quite rare that they use something different than WordPress. The majority is going to use WordPress, so it's going to give you a lot of choice. You will find some freelancer, you can find some employees that has some good WordPress skills. So now just a few cons of WordPress. It's not really cons, it's just the way it is. So because WordPress is not the only thing that you need to create your website, compared to a solution like Wix, for example, which is all included, you will have a longer learning curve to learn how to use WordPress. Just because, WordPress by itself is not hard to learn, but then you will need to learn what is a hosting company. You will need to learn everything about the theme. You will need to do some research about plugins and learn about every single plugin that you're interested in. And this takes a lot of time. So yes, just expect WordPress to be a bit longer to learn than if you go for some other popular website builders. I've been mentioning Wix. It's not only Wix. You've got Squarespace. That is a really good one too. So yeah, that's just something to take in consideration when you want to get started with WordPress. The second cons is that I've been mentioning that WordPress is free, but your website is actually not going to be free when you take in consideration that you have to invest in the hosting company, you have to invest in a theme. I mean, in most cases, you will have to invest in these stuffs, and because you might have to buy a few extra plugins on the side. It's actually not true that it's free to use WordPress. It's very likely that you will have to spend extra money on the side of WordPress. So yeah, just expect a few expenses when you build your website, but it's definitely not going to cost you a fortune. Everything around WordPress is very affordable. I really can't give you a budget, but for most projects, I would say that you would not spend more than $200 a year. I'm just talking about this thing, your hosting company, the theme, and the plugins. Then if you hire someone to build your website for you, obviously it's going to be more than that. But what you need to build a website yourself is actually extremely affordable. Another thing that you need to be aware of about WordPress is that WordPress requires some maintenance. Some of the website builders won't require this maintenance. You might have the private company that is distributing the website builder that are going to do all the maintenance for you. That's not the case with WordPress. With WordPress, you will have to update WordPress itself. You will have to update your theme and make sure that everything is running properly. So WordPress require a bit of maintenance, let's say every month, every 2 months or whatever. That's not, you can't leave. I mean, if you finish to update to create your website, you can't leave it as it is for years. You will need to go back on your website editor and do some update here and there. So not a big deal, but just something to be aware of when you get started with WordPress. The last thing that I would like to mention in the cons, again, that's not really a cons. It's just that if you get started with WordPress, you will realize that there is 2 different WordPress and it can be a bit confusing. Don't worry, stay with me, that's easier than it sounds. You will hear about WordPress.com and WordPress.org. So everything that I'm mentioning on this video is based on WordPress.org, not WordPress.com. WordPress.com is just kind of an easy version of WordPress, which actually include everything. I haven't used WordPress.com for a while, so I'm not really sure about that, but I think it's all included, like hosting and all the theme and all of this. You won't have to go for a third-party solution. Anyway, just to make it simple for you, forget about WordPress.com and just consider using WordPress.org. And another note about that is that you actually don't need to go on WordPress.org to get started. I'm going to create other video about getting started with WordPress, what the step that you actually need to do. So that's not really the subject of this video, but just to make it simple for you to understand that, basically the first step that you will do when you get started with your website is to find your hosting company. And once you buy your hosting plan, from there, you will create your website install and you will be able to upload WordPress from there, which just takes 2 minutes. That's a 2-minute step. That's super easy. So that's really where you will have to get started when you create your website. Buy your hosting plan, and from there you will upload WordPress to your install, and it's going to be a step-by-step process, very easy to follow, so don't be worried about that. Nothing confusing about WordPress. You just need to understand that there is 2 different WordPress, and in your case you won't use WordPress.com, and you will actually do everything from your hosting plan. Okay, so now I'm going to give you my opinion on when you should use WordPress or not. So I will make it simple. I think in pretty much any situation, you can't really go wrong with WordPress. But there is just a few scenarios where I think it's worth mentioning that WordPress might not be your only obvious way to go to create your website. The first example, that's a bit of a funny one because most of you won't be considering that. But let's say that you want to create the new Facebook or the new Amazon, like a huge scale project. WordPress is not going to be for you. All these big companies, they invest millions on the project and they basically start from scratch. They don't use a website builder to create their website. So if you want to create a new startup and you have millions of dollars to invest in your software, in your website, don't get started with WordPress. That's not going to be the way to go. I'm not going to go into details why. I'm just saying that WordPress is not going to be for you and you actually don't need to get started with a website builder. That being said, if you are not in this case, if you have a small business, a medium-sized business, or even a large company and you just need a showcase website, starting with a website builder is going to make your life much easier and your project affordable. So I think for 99% of the people that are looking this video, you actually need to start with a website builder, even if it's not the case for every website project. Okay, so now the second scenario that I would like to talk about is actually the opposite, the absolute opposite. Let's say that you want to create your website as quickly as possible and you are not interested to learn anything about website development. You want the easiest solution. And yeah, I mean, that's not something that is interesting for you. And even the website itself, you just want a website to get something live for your company. You're willing to spend a few hours this week and you want your website to be live at the end of the week. And also you're not willing to pay someone to do the work for you. You really want to do everything yourself, maybe because you're limited on budget or because that's not your priority, whatever the reason. If you are in this case, WordPress might not be the best option for you. In that specific case, I think it's worth checking maybe Wix. I'm not a huge fan of Wix, but anyway, I think it's still good in this scenario when you don't want to invest a lot of time. Wix would be the kind of website builder where it's all going to be included. You're going to have a support provided by Wix. So any solution, any problem, you won't even have to look online. You just call them. You will have to pay a small amount of money every month to get your website running, but it's going to be very easy. Another one that I really like, very similar to Wix, is Squarespace. Had a few go with it, and I think it's pretty good. And you can actually achieve a really nice result with Squarespace. And it's all included. Same, you don't have to worry about a hosting company. You don't have to worry about finding a third-party theme. You might actually be able to do it, I don't know. But anyway, within Squarespace or Wix, you will find pretty much everything you need to create your website. Now, yeah, so you will tell me, so why should I go for WordPress if it's so easy to get started with Wix or Squarespace? Really the big difference between this kind of solution and WordPress is that with Wix or Squarespace, at some point you might be limited and you might not be able to build exactly what you want. You will basically just have what the company is providing, because these two solutions are owned by a private company, and that's what I would call a closed ecosystem. And WordPress is the absolute opposite. That's an open ecosystem. So you can have third-party companies that create stuff around WordPress, which with Wix or Squarespace, you just have a feature provided by them. So let's say that at some point you want to have, I don't know, let's say a booking system on your website. Let's say that you're a restaurant and you want people to be able to book a table. Maybe Wix will provide a solution to do that, but they will definitely not provide you like 20 different options to choose from. And the option that they will provide you might not be what you want. Maybe it's not going to work in your specific case. Maybe you don't like it. And in that case, you will be stuck with something that you don't like. If you go for WordPress, because you've got this open ecosystem, let's say that first you can check all the plugins available, and it's very likely that you're going to find the solution that you want inside one of these plugins. And even if it's not the case and you can't find exactly what you want, what you're going to do, you're just going to look for a developer. There's plenty of freelancer that are working only on WordPress to develop some specific features. And this developer is going to develop exactly the booking system that you're looking for. And it's not going to be super expensive because they're going to start from WordPress. They already have all the standard feature of WordPress, and they're going to use this on a bit of custom code to build your plugin. So yeah, that's where I would say, okay, Wix and Squarespace might be good, but just be aware that there's some limitation. Maybe another thing that I forgot to mention is, as I said, so these two specific website builders are owned by a private company, but pretty much all the other solutions that you're going to find on the side of WordPress are going to be private owned website builders, so as a private product. Just be aware that even if you build your website, they kind of own your website. This means that if at some point, let's say that you use Squarespace and Squarespace discontinue the product, or the company is shutting down everything, you clearly lose your work. And this actually happened in the past few years. I think it was in 2019. You might have heard of Adobe, which is a very, very well-known company in the internet world. They've been creating a solution which was called a Business Catalyst, and so it was actually quite popular for small businesses to develop their website. And in 2019, they decided that they were going to discontinue the product. So Adobe is still existing. They develop huge other softwares, but they decided to discontinue this website builder. And it's actually been a drama for many businesses, because their website, so they gave them something, I think they gave like 1 year notice on saying like, oh, you need to find another solution to create your website, and in 1 year your website is going to disappear from the web. And I actually had 2 clients that came to me because they had their website done with Business Catalyst and they wanted someone to build it with WordPress. So I did it. But just to let you know that this kind of stuff can actually happen when you decide to go for a private company. They own your website, and if one day they discontinue, you just lose your work. The last scenario where you might be looking for something different than WordPress is if you want to create a pretty simple e-commerce website. In that case, I would highly recommend you to have a look to Shopify. I personally like Shopify. I think it's great. It's a very great website builder. And the idea is that it's mainly focused on e-commerce, and you will find all the e-commerce features out of the box. So even if it's your first e-commerce project, you never heard about, you never tried to create anything on the internet, you will find Shopify very intuitive to create your e-commerce website. Now, can you create an e-commerce website with WordPress? Of course you can. But that's clearly the next level. You will need a lot of third-party plugins to create something very nice. And it's a bit more challenging to get your e-commerce website running perfectly with WordPress. So if you're brand new to the internet and you want your e-commerce website to start, to run quickly, and you don't want to pay someone to do it, definitely check Shopify. I think you will love it. That being said, same thing as what I was just explaining before. If at some point you don't find exactly what you want with Shopify, just be aware that you're going to be stuck. And I think it is more suitable for people that want to create like a side business, and or they just want to get started. But that's not really a solution that I will recommend to an existing company, a well-implemented company that want to sell their own product, and are really serious about it. They really want to invest on that, and they're going to rely on the software, even if, yeah, well, it might work. I mean, you can do it with Shopify, but I wouldn't go this way. I think it's better to invest on something built with WordPress, because same, you're going to have so much more possibility to create exactly what you need for your business. Just keep in mind that Shopify is quite expensive when you start to, I think the pricing system is based on the volume of sales that you're going to do with your website. And yeah, I mean, when you start to sell a lot, it's getting quite pricey, in my opinion. So same, you know, when you build your e-commerce website with WordPress, much more struggle at the start, yes, but once it's running, and you can definitely achieve something as good as Shopify, if not better with WordPress. But the day it's running, no one is going to charge you based on your volume of sale. How much you make per month, that's definitely not going to impact how much costs your website. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful. If you were just at the stage where you were wondering what website builder to use, I hope I've been giving you some interesting point to consider. And also keep in mind that in all the other video that I'm creating, while it's definitely not all about website development, it's more about digital marketing and lead generation. When I'm going to talk about website development, it's definitely going to be everything around WordPress. I'm not going to use the other solution that I just mentioned a bit earlier. So again, if you want my advice on website development, that's another reason that you should go for WordPress and not another solution. If you already have a website done with something else and you would like to get some advice about lead generation and digital marketing strategy, don't worry. You will still find plenty of video in this channel that are not related to WordPress, and it's more going to be about the platforms that you can use to promote your website, generate more traffic, create some beautiful reports, and all this video nothing to do with WordPress.